Hello. Sorry, we were receiving some technical difficulties before, but now we shouldn't be having any issues whatsoever. I apologize, and we will resume with our coverage.
Hello and welcome for the final time, hopefully, to our coverage of Race by Wolves. We're finally at the end of season 1. This is Studio Yutani. I'm Connor Colson, and I am joined once again by Clara, aka Mother, who is, basically Studio Yutani. So, I guess it shouldn't be surprised that she is in fact here.
Thanks for Connor coming on to doing this series with me. He's actually the one who suggested it.
I hate myself, and I only have myself to blame.
You know what? Like, in all honesty, this I knew this was going to be kind of like a mixed bag.
I knew it was going to be a wild ride, but I was not ready.
Yeah, I was not familiar with Aaron Jasinski's stuff previously.
I had seen some of his stuff, and it was okay. I love Prisoners, actually. Prisoners is amazing. So I thought at least this would be decent. I don't even know. Is it bad? Is it good? I don't even. We'll find out. We'll dig into this.
So yeah, let's have a look at what the summary for episode 8 is.
Right. So this is episode 8, Mass. As Marcus continues to embrace his Mithraic devotion, Sue worries he may no longer have her and Paul's best interests at heart. Mother experiences what she believes to be malfunctions, and Hunter works on a secret project with Father.
This one was directed by Alex Gabassi and written by Sinead Daly. So Alex's previous ones that he's written for is the ABC Murders, the Frankenstein Chronicles, the I tried saying this last week. I couldn't say it. Oh, Hypnotizer. Hypnotizer? I don't know. I still can't say it. But they've got like a lot of TV directorials under their belt. I can say now. El Hypnotize the Door. For some reason. Yeah. It's really interesting. Like Sinead Daly hasn't done much in the way of stuff that is what we would say considered conventional. They've done Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and had I known that, I would have expected this.
Yeah, I've actually watched that. It's one of those ones that I just kind of miss. I mean, I always meant to watch it, but there's just too many things.
It is crazy. Like, if you thought this was weird, that show's known for weird. But I like it. It's a good mix. And I think...
Well, Elijah Wood's involved, so it's going to be buck wild.
Yeah. I think that because of that, like having these sorts of writing styles, it may have impressed on like the whole generation of these episodes that we see for Raised by Wolves, but maybe it will make it interesting season after season, but we can only find out.
Endure through the following seasons.
So season 1 episode 8 opens with Marcus and some body horror, like we mentioned in the previous podcast. He slices his face open, and this comes from, like, there's been a lot of like urban legends about people who are like drug addicts who have done these sorts of things to themselves. What did you think about this whole face slicing scenario? Is it from a horror? Because like I'm not that familiar with horror or like the sorts of horror that American TV show watchers get.
It's pretty fucked up. That's my opinion, and doesn't really remind me of anything in particular. Face removal tends not to be voluntary. It's more like in which Hannibal book is that? Well, in the Hannibal NBC series, you see it as well.
Yeah.
Where can't remember his name, but one of the guys loses his face to carnivorous pigs. He's trained these pigs to eat flesh, and yeah, he falls into the pit, and his face gets chopped off. And I think he's played by Gary Oldman in one of the movies, so I think it's just called Hannibal. Other than that, I don't think it's a specific reference to anything, but it is very striking imagery.
I think it's pretty symbolic. Obviously, we know that the atheists have these tattoos, and because Marcus had been found out by Mother, this is probably his dream association with cutting away or getting rid of the atheist side of him, and he becomes more full-fledged, like religious extremist.
Oh yeah, definitely. The face symbolism there is quite obvious. That's his whole arc, is his identity and his appearance. Strangely, his voice didn't have to change. Interesting, because that would explain at least why he has to put on that god-awful American accent. If he started off the show using an Australian accent and then he had to pretend to be an American man, like freaking Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, yeah, that I could understand. But as it is, still getting distracted by that accent, no reason for it.
I noticed in the background, like a lot with Tally's drawings, more so now, you can see this snake featuring in everything. Like it's coiled up, it's surrounding the sun or the moon. It's in just about every single drawing.
Yes. What could the snake mean? Where is that going?
Tally was the first victim of the voices, I believe, because she was the one venturing far from the camp and she fell into a hole.
Yeah, she just walked straight towards it.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense, because when I first watched it, I went, who's this dumb child who would just walk straight into a goddamn pit? And it makes sense if something was luring her there.
Yeah.
You live near that pit, child. You know where it is.
So Marcus is having this full-on like conversation with his own son about being tested by Soul, and like making it, insinuating that he is like weak and fragile, and that the only way to survive is to become tougher, kind of like the way Father had said to the children. But when Father was saying it, it was very matter-of-factly and not about Soul. It was just about general survival, whereas this one is all deeply rooted in religion.
And Marcus initially was teaching compassion. I mean, right now they're playing with the mouse, and that is obviously representing how, well, yes, when I first met you, I gave you a pet and I wanted you to know that you can show compassion and it's not weakness, and then it's suddenly turning that on its head.
Yeah. I don't like the new Marcus. I think he's a bit of a tosser.
Yeah, I'm surprised that in a show full of assholes that are unrelatable, we have yet another unrelatable asshole. What a shock.
Mother coming up on the crashed Ark and the Mithraic ship and scavenging. I think it's kind of interesting because like she had previously crashed the Ark because she wanted to destroy anyone who would kind of threaten her family dynamic. And now that family dynamic has been taken away, now she's trying to salvage herself.
There's some really gorgeous shots of the exterior of the ship. It's I think it's one of the rare times this show does go fully cinematic.
Yeah, I kind of like the dynamics of using that ship now as well, like going forward in the plot. Like, how do we have like a haunted spaceship but not in space? It's a crashed one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite enjoy it.
Have we actually had any haunted ship movies? I don't think so. Like, there's things to get close, kind of an Event Horizon sort of thing, but
Event Horizon, like Prometheus to a certain degree because of the 3D visualizations of the engineers as ghosts.
yeah.
Or Elizabeth Shaw in Alien Covenant, as you know. So
Because Alien definitely gets that haunted house in space analogy a lot, but there's not a literal haunted house in space movie, I don't think.
no. Yeah, you're right. Event Horizon would probably become the closest.
Get on it, Guillermo del Toro. That seems like his jam.
Yeah, totally. Hey, is there an Event Horizon by minute?
Not that I've heard of. No, surprisingly, there's a lot of ones that haven't been done because I'm doing RoboCop. Somehow no one's done RoboCop before now. And I'm also looking into Highlander with my co-host for RoboCop Minute, Simon. No Highlander. So maybe there's no Event Horizon, which, I mean, if you wanna, it's there for you.
I don't have the time. I wish I
Yeah,
did.
it's a full-time job.
This dynamic between Hunter and father, noticing that it was like Morse code. I called it before I actually realized what it was.
Yep.
It was pretty cool. But then like him saying soul is the light, I was like, oh damn.
Yeah, he's got nothing to say, really. Thought there was going to be like some hidden mystery. Nah.
It's really interesting, like the part that you love, Mother in the ship with Carl.
Yes.
Surprisingly, these robots, like I really like them, even though they're creepy as fuck.
They are way better at being androids than the main two freaking androids. You know, mother, father, or father's. Mother is extremely terrible. But yeah, this
I
dude.
don't know why everyone keeps on saying that her performance is amazing, because compared to other android performances, I feel like we are connoisseurs of that.
Exactly.
That there is no demonstration of that whatsoever. Like,
No. It's not there in the writing, it's not there in the performance. There's nothing appealing or intriguing about this character. She's just like passive aggressive and I want to better everyone, but I'm actually totally logical and normal. You guys are the ones freaking out. That's what she's been like for 10 episodes. There's no character progression. She's just like, I want to murder. Okay. We're almost done. We're almost done. I'll deal it. Okay, Carl is here. He's great. I'm slamming my desk, sorry. But yes, he's actually given a good android performance in terms. It's kind of hard to capture just describing it, but yeah, he's just very polite and matter of fact. And
I like his accent and everything. Even like the mouth gestures, because you don't have the facial gestures of like a human face. The acting for a robot has to go the extra mile, I believe.
He's given me, if you know Doug Jones's performances in his sort of costume performances, like as Abe Sapien, kind of gives me those vibes. So yeah, perfect. For some reason, these androids, the makeup design is very bizarre, where it's sort of this structured skull cap sort of thing, kind of geometric at the sides. And then he's got the eyes like Batu in Ghost in the Shell. It's like metal rings. It's why though?
Yeah, it's definitely giving me Working Joan vibes.
Yes, very much so, yeah.
You know, there's one thing that Mother does really well, and that is her breathing at this point when she's like lying down on that bed.
Yeah, what's with the hyperventilating?
She sounds like a dog panting.
Yeah.
So she acts really well as a wolf. Like all the parts where she's like howling and doing wolf-like things.
Yeah, if they wanted to literally make the show raised by wolves, and she is in fact a werewolf, and that's where she disappears to at night, and yeah, I would have been more on board with that. But instead, she's supposed to be an android, I guess.
I just paused the screen on where she's laying on the bed, and like one of the words down the right hand side says slut. I don't know how many times that they've like hidden in all of these like Easter eggs to be found or not found. Even the wording looks like it's from like she's been programmed with like basic coding, considering that she's been created from Mithraic scriptures and is supposed to be kind of like far from human. The programming is definitely human.
Well, that's the thing, is when it comes to creating artificial intelligence, the greatest problem is that a computer is not actually intelligent. So what a computer can actually do is it has perfect recall and it's a calculator. Those are the two things that it's made to do. They're not actually logical. They cannot think for themselves. So in order to create true AI, or in this case, an artificial consciousness, I think what we'd be looking at is something totally different. You'd have to create a totally different system that isn't perhaps even based on math. I don't know how you'd do that, but I mean, that's how our brains work.
Very true. I like the blueness in this room. There's a lot of contrast, like the kind of like the same color contrast that you see in Prometheus between the oranges and the blues.
Yeah. I actually quite like this scene. Just Carl's working for me. He's great.
Yeah, I wish we could see more of these guys. Maybe we will.
Hopefully.
Like, yeah, season 2. And like you were saying with the uniform for the robots, it seems to make more sense. This sort of like neoprene.
Yeah, his costume is much better. I didn't comment on that before, but I can't remember. The other guy can't remember. I think it was all burnt up, so it's really hard to tell what he's wearing. But yeah, this neoprene costume, just it has more weight to it. It has more substance, and they've printed the green sort of emergency cross thing on it. Yeah, let's do that. You got it right.
I like how all of the Mithraic uniforms are slowly going from like a really crisp white to like a kind of earthy tone, like the rest of everyone's outfits, because of the dirt and the dust.
As much as I like white, it is not a great color for uniforms. Not sure why they decided to, especially if it's supposed to be military uniforms. So you're telling me that you just fight in the snow and white sand, I guess?
Maybe it's just to tell the difference between the Mithraics and the atheists, but considering the Mithraics are the only ones on the planet right now, there's no need for that identification, I don't think.
Yeah, well, I guess it's supposed to make them look more like, Knights Templar, and it's more holy. So I get it, but just from a practical real world sense, that is the reason why we often don't see white uniforms.
I hope we see this sort of like aging and wear and tear like we did with like The Walking Dead. Everyone's slowly getting greasier and greasier.
Gross.
And dirtier. Because I've seen a lot of people bring this up in forums. There's just no water on the planet. There's no way that they show that they collect water. There's no wells.
But yeah, we've never actually seen any water on this show.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like the food that they have is rich in moisture either. So
yeah,
it's very peculiar.
There's no way you could survive on this planet. I don't. Anyway, let's not get into that because then I'll never stop.
Mother's doing this self-operation kind of reminds me of Numi Rapace's or Shaw's self-abortion in Prometheus. Spoiler alert, she does not abort. It kind of like this show uses so many concepts from Ridley's other movies, but kind of turns them on their head. Whether or not they're used effectively, I don't know, but it is interesting.
Sorry, I got distracted by so Mother's explaining to Carl that, yeah, all the colonists are dead. And then Carl's just sort of like, oh, yeah, okay. He doesn't seem to have much of a reaction to that.
Oh, she doesn't outright say it. She's like, oh, I don't think they'll need any help.
Yeah, he doesn't question that at all. which kind of shows the limits of his thinking, I suppose. But so we cut across to Paul and Mary basically just wants to take Paul away from Marcus, and they want to run away somewhere. So that's basically all that's worth mentioning there. But mostly the most interesting thing is what Mother's doing, and so she's siphoning milk blood from Carl, and she's feeling around inside her, and she's like, "Oh, there's some sort of obstruction here," and this is where things start getting freaky. I don't know. I mean, there
I
are
like how
no.
she plucks out her eye and she can see wherever her eye is. Kind of reminds me like of Mr. Potato Head in Toy Story.
Yeah, I did that too. I forgot about that. Yeah, I didn't know there was like a wireless connectivity, so I don't know how that works because she's got two pairs of eyes. Is she seeing inside of her bag also?
That's true. I wonder how far that connection goes.
So it's kind of hard to tell what's actually in her insides.
Yeah, in her abdomen, it kind of just looks like a round ball. It's really
Yeah.
dark. And she's got this like shocked look when she's like leaning back in the chair.
Mm.
Like, oh
I
my
still look
God,
at tumor.
I've got a tumor. And it's interesting, like that sort of like journey from like thinking that she has like some sort of infection that needs to be cured that can't be taken out, and then realizing that she's pregnant.
Mm.
Yeah. So we're going back to the camp. Marcus is back in the church again. And Paul is praying with him. Like, I kind of feel for Paul because he's very devout in his belief, like most children are, without question. And it's actually Marcus that questions himself. Like when he says to Paul before, like, you know, Soul tests us because he loves us. And then Paul's like, no. And Marcus is like, yeah. It's a non-believer trying to gain understanding of something that is completely like foreign to him. But even then, like the Mithraic beliefs are very much or largely looks like they're all man-made and put together. We don't know how much of that interpretation from the scriptures is actually human and which one's actually direct from Soul.
Yeah, well, if Soul is real, who could say? You know, anything's possible in this show, to be honest.
Yeah. I like the use of like the little round lights. Like I know that we had them earlier on in Mother's Camp, but effectively using light and dark. This is the most well-lit dark TV show I've seen, because like there's other TV shows like, for example, Sabrina, the Chilling Tales of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I can't watch that show because it's mainly black. And I have to turn up the brightness and I have to turn off all the lights and close all the curtains to be able to see what's going on.
Oh, weird.
This show doesn't do that.
I remember back in the day that used to be a problem with old TVs, but yeah, I haven't really had that problem. Oh, except for that Game of Thrones episode, the notorious one that was just not balanced at all. The blacks were not black enough, so it was just, yeah. But what was it? Oh, yeah, Mother learning that she's pregnant is, I think they're kind of going for this sort of, the Annunciation.
Yeah, the Immaculate.
Where she hears the voice of Campion Sturgis saying, you know, that, well, basically that she is pregnant. And there is this kind of thing, that cannot be, it's impossible. And then she's been given this responsibility to birth the future of humanity or whatever, which turns out to not in fact be the case, but we shall see that when we see that.
This scene with Mary and Caleb / Sue and Marcus in the Orange Dome, he is starting to lose his identity. And I think like when Sue kisses him here, there's that little bit of him left. But it's definitely slowly getting eaten away by this Mithraic faith.
And then we have a flashback to Earth, I think.
Yeah, I think they're loading the ship. And this kind of reminds me of the concentration camps that they had, or the death camps during Nazi Germany. It's definitely brings up that sort of vibe, and we've seen this a lot in other TV shows. And it's interesting the sorts of people who were chosen to go onto the Ark.
Yeah. Well, it's that whole lottery thing of, oh, we're trying to make this seem like it's civilized and we're, creating a sense of order. But I mean, how do you evaluate human life like that? And then that comes up a lot with self-driving cars, and people misinterpret what it means by what a self-driving car is supposed to do in the situation of, picking between one life and another. It doesn't do that. It basically means that, say for example, it's not, so if there's two passengers in a car, it's not like it's going to go, oh yes, I'm going to choose the older person, so I'm going to swerve this way so that the kids spit. No. It's basically, if I swerve this way, it's going to cause more damage than if I swerve this way. That's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to these sort of government systems, there's actually a show I just finished watching, Japan Sinks, and it's really good. It's this anime on Netflix, and so the entirety of Japan has sunk, and they're trying to evacuate people, and they have this system of, we're picking people who either are presently, they have a job that is of significance, so if they're doctors or whatever. And then, well, our main character, she is a star athlete at her high school, so they accept her as well. Any students with promise, they basically take, and you just go, that is horrendous when you start evaluating people in terms of worth.
It's obviously like the classes system within the Mithrite culture isn't one based on race, I don't believe.
No.
It seems pretty even keel, apart from like the obvious misogyny and patriarchal system.
Yeah, it's more like, well, are you a person of faith or are you not? That's basically how they make that division. And yes, gender divisions as well. Other than that, doesn't seem like, well, I don't know. Maybe they were only bringing people on board who were of benefit to the society. They don't really go into that in particular.
This part here, when Marcus is questioning Paul, yeah, this is when I definitely see him slipping away as his character. His kind of like anxiety has taken whatever that was left of him, assumedly from before. He's gone from somewhat being a survivor to being a maniac.
Yeah.
I really feel sorry for Paul.
We see that Tempest has wandered off and she is looking for Mother, which is weird. She actually cares about Mother now. Don't know where that came from, but okay, I guess that's how character progression works in this show.
I think she didn't like the way that she would be treated with the Mithridates, and I think being treated on what she was able to contribute before. And Mother, because like she's been programmed to care, she has like a genuine interest in her well-being, whereas the Mithraic people only seem to be concerned with whoever is in the class structure.
Yeah. They don't really have too much of a caste system, I don't think, as far as I can tell. Like, you've got your sort of clergy, leadership, whatever you want to call it, and that's about it.
Yeah, I feel like the ex-soldiers don't get treated as well as the rest. They are kind of fodder and thrown to the front line, which is really strange how Marcus ends up becoming a leader, because, you know, they were very focused on who would be next in the line of succession before.
Yeah. Well, you know, the god said so, so. Has to. Mother goes ahead and starts transfusing milk blood from many more androids, and then later she upgrades to blood, which we haven't gotten to yet. But yeah, that's where this course of events is leading to.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Like a half carbon, half silicon slash android life form.
Mm.
It's
Oh,
very HR Geiger, like, the future
yeah.
of biomechanical.
Yeah. So I was researching alternate bases for life, and the common one is silicon. But the problem with silicon is that I can't remember, read it many years ago, but they suggested that they wouldn't be able to breathe oxygen. So you need some kind of fuel source. So if they were to process oxygen, that it would be this slow moving creature that basically leaves these little bricks of silicon behind it instead of just breathing out carbon dioxide. And because I'm researching transformers, and I was like, wait, metal-based life form, is that a thing? Can you do that? Yeah, so you can make life technically out of inorganic matter, inorganic meaning non-carbon based. And yeah, there's been experiments about 10 years ago. They were doing experiments in creating basically cells, living cells, or lifelike cells, as they called them, out of metal oxide. And there's a lot to read on. It's very fascinating, just that idea of, oh, we could possibly even create these things ourselves if we wanted to. And in that sense, I think that probably explains Mother, if not replicants, depending on your approach to replicants, especially in the book, Do Androids Dream, it's not exactly clear what they are or how they work. But yeah, if we could create silicon or metal-based cells and then construct life out of it, I think you would have something like Mother, because Carl was suggesting, oh, you probably have a silicon tumor. Okay, that implies cell division. So is she making cells? Silicon-based cells. So yeah, I guess she is closer to being alive than to being a machine.
Yeah, like something like a 3D printer.
Sort of, yeah. So that means that all her hyperventilating might be, in fact, actual breathing. She does need to breathe. She's not just being, well, she is just being weird, but also that breathing is not just a thing for show for her.
Do you feel like Sol, when it's speaking to Campion, is telling him to kill himself? Like, Tally's ghost seems very scary, like for a kid.
She's spooky, baby. Yeah, I don't.
What's the
I mean,
motivation of, like, Campion, we miss you. Do you miss us?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I thought, like in the last episode, did they say kill yourself? Thought so.
I don't think it's just asking him, do you miss us? And it was like, well, that's a weird thing to remunerate on.
Yep.
Having to dig out with like the Smeagol's hands, that was strange. I felt like that was like a bunch of like zombie salad forks.
Salad fingers. That's a thought I haven't had in a long time. Yeah, it's I mean, that's one way to do it, I guess. There's things in that room he could have used other than hands.
Maybe a carbo.
Dumb child.
It's and the church finally on fire. We saw this in the trailer and we were like, what is going on? So now we know that someone had purposely set the church aflame to kind of misdirect their attention so that they could escape. It makes sense. I really don't like progression of Marcus. Like, he thinks he's hot shit now just because the church is on fire. But what I do want to draw attention to is Campion Jr. escaping Father and Father chasing after him with an axe. Kind of like totally gives me vibes of like, being chased through the maze at the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah, I guess so. Where was I? Oh, yeah, that Marcus burns down the building, or the church, I should say. Which I don't get that. I didn't know what he was doing that for. I wasn't clear on that one.
I think it was Campion or Paul who did that to burn the church down. It's kind
Hang
of
on.
like,
Oh no, it's Campion. Sorry, yeah, but yeah, I forgot that bit. So Marcus is just like, yeah, that's cool. I like flames. Yeah.
had the whole soundtrack of Firestarter going through my head at that point.
Just Firestarter.
And it's so sad when Carl just like stops talking. Obviously ran out of biofluid.
Yep. So he seems more robotic in terms of how he's actually constructed. He seems more like a machine. But they all, I don't know. This is all headcanon, but it feels like they all use that white liquid, but maybe some are more robotic, like the necromancers are actually, yeah, silicon-based or metal-based life forms. But using the same blood.
Yeah, well, they are a mythic creation from scriptures. Like, they may not have known much about the technology that they were using.
But if it is a non-carbon based life form, that makes so much sense as to just the way she thinks and the way she reacts to the world. And yeah, suddenly that actually all falls into place a little better than the idea of, oh, this is an android that's being constructed in a factory. Could question that.
When Mother kills this beast and tastes the blood, it's so weird. She's like, I'm sorry. And then just like stabs its side and starts sucking the blood out.
Yeah.
I had this theory that these were like humans, but they had been like radiated, so they all like malformed.
And it looks like it. They're pretty close to human. They're just still stretched out.
Yeah.
Spaghettified. Maybe they went through a black hole. But yeah, that idea that she can grow something inside of her, okay, that makes sense. But then why does she need carbon-based energy, an energy source? I don't know. But she's very good at playing like a weird werewolf lady. So there is that. I'll give that to her. The fact that she's pregnant maybe explains why she has that weird torso. So at least we finally have an explanation of that. Maybe she's pregnant all along.
It's kind of weird, that thing that she does when she's like rolling all over the floor.
Yeah, and then that was what I was trying to find. I was scrubbing through the video, where she's just like, there's all these dead bodies everywhere, and then she's just like, just convulsing and shit. I don't know. I guess she's putting blood in her the first time ever, and oh, she's doing the worm on the floor, but like upside down. She's just so disgusting. God damn, she's just so gross. And now she's covered in blood and white stuff. It's just disgusting.
And she powers down after breakdancing, which is kind of, what's going on?
I don't understand any of this. And it only gets weirder. We're only in episode 8. Oh my god. This series has just been, our review series has just been my descent into madness. Just when I didn't think I'd get any deeper.
I like when Mother finds Tempest, again, effectively using the haunted ship. It's very clever use of like set, because they can just use any trashed up room with not much lighting at all and be able to use it.
It does look pretty cool, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to stay on budget.
And yeah, now Tempest is all like, I care about you, and we're hugging, and okay. Again, that's my biggest issue with this show, is that just character arcs and all of that seem to just sort of happen at random. And that's why I would say it's kind of plot based, especially in terms of, well, the plot demands you do this now, so do this. Okay. Because I never felt like there was any moment where they finally understood each other. This seems to just come out of the blue for me.
When Mother interfaces with the sim again, she's really angry at her creator. And it's really weird, because like she said that she wanted to be able to have children. Like she said that to Tempest.
Yeah. Like, what do you want, lady? You got what you wanted. So, I mean, well, we'll find out what kind of baby it is. But yeah.
It's really interesting that Sim Campion tells Mother that, you know, all of the children were just preparation for what she's going through now. It started to make me question what her purpose was, and like for her, I guess, to try to figure out who she is and what she is and why she is. Like for such a long time, she knew what she was built for, and like she could like rest easy knowing that and trying to do that job well. But to have that taken from you and kind of like have it all shaken up, even though it's essentially the same thing, she's still going to be a mother.
Right.
It's obviously like really screwed with her programming.
And I mean, that's all my notes for this episode, because everything I want to say is kind of in the next couple.
Should we go on to the next one then?
I think we should. So that is episode 9, Umbilical. Sue is determined to keep the children safe, and in doing so struggles with whether or not she can trust Mother. You can't trust Mother. Meanwhile, a new threat arises, and an increasingly erratic Marcus, it causes the Mithraic to question their leader. So basically, both sides of this conflict, you got Marcus on one side, Mother on the other. Batshit insane. So I don't know if that's like a message that Ridley Scott and Aaron, never remember his name, they're trying to they're trying to convey that all leaders are insane.
Aaron did write the last 2 episodes. James Hawes is the director for this one. And surprise, surprise, he's done episodes of Black Mirror. He's also directed episodes of The Alienist, The Mist, Snowpiercer. So having like really confronting moral dilemmas and societies questioning their choices is not new for this director to kind of like investigate. So it's really interesting pairing this director's style with Aaron Gazinski's storyline.
Yeah.
Ramping up to the end of season 1. I think it's a really good episode where everything came to a head. Actually, I would have been quite happy with it ending on this episode.
Yeah, actually, I really like this sort of, you know, Mother has this party following her along, and there's this anticipation of, oh, is there really a baby on the way or not? And you're seeing all these different camps come together. And so I think that could have ended this season on a more optimistic and mysterious note. I think the big problem with what we got is, oh, okay. Oh, right. What am I supposed to do with that? And then it just leaves it there, which I guess, yes, that's a hell of a cliffhanger, but I don't know. I think that's that thing of, do you want to end on something that's going to generate a lot of controversy and discussion, or do you want to just, go for something that's building up to something, and so there's opportunities and potential? I don't know. Could go either way.
Hmm.
But Tempest confronts Otho, her rapist, and
It's a real Ripley moment. Like the whole atmosphere, I really loved this part. There's
yeah,
like, the electrical wires and sparks happening,
it's very Nostromo. Yeah.
lots of like jump scare stuff. Is like, oh my god, this feels like really alien.
Mm. And I actually quite like the actress who plays Tempest. I mean, she's quite young, so I don't know how much she's done before, but I can imagine her going on to doing a lot more in the future.
Yeah. I like her character arc. She's pretty cool, even though like what happened to her was pretty awful. She ends up being quite the survivor.
Yes.
What do you feel about Otho's mumblings? Kind of reminds me of V for Vendetta at this point.
Also, he's got a very powerful theatrical voice, so that kind of helps too. Then Mother feeds her fetus. She uses the blood from Otho, and then they go on a bit of an adventure. So Otho and Tempest and Mother, and then later some other people, they go for a bit of a wander, and that leads them to a rock wall where there's cards, little metal cards stuck into it, but we don't get to that just yet. And it is interesting that they made him so, like, especially in terms of that vocal performance, that there is this sense of, oh, this guy sounds quite authoritative, and there's a charisma there. He actually reminds me of Peter Serafinowicz a little bit. Like, he voiced Darth Maul, and yeah, it's definitely got that sort of quality to it instead of maybe something harsher or less appealing.
Ah, I see. So Adrian Schiller did the voice of Otho, but the other one is actually the actor Otho.
Right.
Interesting character. Not long for this world. This part where Tempest is kind of like faced with Mother feeding her fetus, that is like gross.
It's all gross. And then now she's got the baby bump going, and it's just
like motherhood is very natural, but the way that they're doing this, like, oh, we're feeding a tumor, and like this is the way we're going to deal with it. It's just.
A baby is just a tumor with eyes. Then we cut to Marcus lying in the ashes of the church, and I don't know, what is this man? Who can know what is going on in the mind of Marcus at any given time?
Yeah.
You got a white jacket. Why are you lying in ash? Absolute madman.
Definitely gone. Now, I really love this like aha moment where Hunter discovers how to unlock Father's brain. I was like, yes, he's back. Even the terrible jokes.
Yes.
Because I've kind of grown to love his presence. And his jokes were very comforting. And we've seen that with Campion reciting them while he was locked up in the shed with the Carbos. Even reciting the the jokes to himself as being bullied by Tally the ghost.
Yeah. Also, I was going to mention that when Hunter's trying to access Father's, I don't know, programming or whatever, it's like, so he opens his hand, and then there's this little holographic display. We've never seen that before. So that's a clever idea.
Yeah, I feel like they use holographics in a way that is very interactive and interesting in this series.
And quite subtle.
Yeah.
I think we're getting to that point now where our technology in real life is fairly close to what we expect from our science fiction. So that sort of form following function kind of thing is a bit more integrated. Well, except for the whole Iron Man thing of we're going to put this stuff out here and then you have to hold up your hands to how long do you think you can hold your arms above your head, my friend? Because you're not going to be able to do that. The Minority Report thing, it looks very cool and cinematic, but you want something sort of down here.
Yeah. It's because like earlier on in Prometheus, we have like one of the guys sitting down on the couch and he's kind of like playing with like a holographic above his wrist.
Yeah.
And like Sue uses a very similar thing to like track the children.
Yeah, I think that could work. Little, like Apple Watch kind of thing. I think holographics will be great. If we could ever get them, I think they'll be very helpful, especially if you're just trying to, well, so yeah, you could project movies onto a wall. You wouldn't even need a TV. You could just project from your phone directly onto a wall or ceiling. Or if you have to give a presentation or whatever it is, or like in Covenant, I think it's in the deleted scene where Branson is frames James Franco. I always call it frames Janko. James Franco. He's trying to figure out he's going to build the cabin by the lake, and it's like, oh, the fireplace should go over here. Oh no, we should put it over here. And so that sort of three-dimensional planning and stuff, I think that technology will be very useful for that.
We already have like a lot of similar technology with virtual reality and augmented reality, and I think that's the closest we're going to get right
I
now.
think augmented reality is the way to go because it's the least intrusive. VR for a lot of people cannot use VR, myself included, because just immediate motion sickness.
I feel like with augmented reality, there's also a sense of privacy because like you have the visualization either on your pad or on your glasses and it's not out there for the world to see.
Yeah.
That's what I never liked about like this sort of like face up display where it's like, oh yeah, we can see all of your plans.
Yeah. And in some sci-fi shows, they'll have like a tablet, but it's clear, or there's a computer screen, but it's clear. And it's just like, I don't want everyone seeing what I'm doing. Why would you make it like that? That's so dumb. Unless it is in a show where you're specifically trying to convey this culture does not, in fact, have a sense of privacy. Which I was researching that recently. I was just going, when did we actually come up with the concept of privacy? Because animals do not have a sense of that at all. And then for some reason humans do, and no other species really does. But it basically comes down to that idea of being intelligent, having secrets, having, political system, and having possessions is another thing, is we want to be able to lock up our possessions away from other people who might want them. And that's a whole interesting. I don't even know if I could work that into anything, but here is my research that I did for fun. Enjoy.
Well, when we're looking at the whole idea of like being kicked out of Eden, so to speak, especially in Paradise Lost, it's that knowledge of shame.
There's also that too. Yeah,
Adam and Eve, because they know what is nudity and things like that. So
shame is a very shame, privacy, all of that. It's really fascinating that, I mean, we don't have many other species to compare ourselves to, and if intelligence begets shame inherently, that would be really interesting to see. Because with intelligence comes the ability to make judgments, to judge others, to reject others out of disgust. So yeah, I mean, you look at your pets licking their nuts on the couch and then they fall off the couch and then they just pick themselves up like nothing happened, and they don't care. They've got no self-awareness. So that's the other thing too. Self-awareness, is that something that's inherent to intelligence? Can you be intelligent without being self-aware? I mean, I guess so. I know a lot of people who are not self-aware, but they're smart enough to at least spell.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a lot of people who still don't understand why Raised by Wolves is called Raised by Wolves. And
Huh.
for those people who need that literal symbology shoved in their face, there is a holy relic that they find on the Ark, which is from Romulus, the founder of Rome. For those people who don't know, there was a she-wolf that lost her own cubs and then found Romulus and Remus in the forest and raised them as her own. This fairy tale is like the founding of Rome, the story. And in this case, we're looking at the founding of Kepler 22b and I guess the Mithraic mystery, what is it? Scriptures and what they believe is going to come to pass. It's interesting that all of these characters are kind of like playing into a myth in action, so to speak.
There have actually been real wolf children, and I remember in primary school found this book, I think it was just called Wolf Children, and it fascinated the hell out of me. And yeah, a lot of them didn't live very long, and it's mostly because they were eating raw meat. I mean, you can eat meat, but maybe don't do that raw. I know there are some people who are raw carnivores. They are mad. And yeah, so these kids generally only lived till maybe their mid-teens, whenever they were found. And yeah, they wouldn't be running a whole civilization like Rome. They were pretty screwed up.
Yeah. This part where they're leading Otho through some sort of like rocky outcrop / desert and kind of led to these caves. They're being watched by another thing, and it's not who they discover as they're hiding either. And they've been led there by these was it tarot cards?
Yeah, so they're actually cut out of metal, and they've got all these different symbols on them. Tarot cards, yeah. Used by the devil cults, according to Otho.
And the symbol of Sol Invictus, something that looks like a hole. And like there's a star. There's also a family unit, which kind of looks like mother and father.
Yeah.
Like how Otho needs to be told to hide himself. He's just standing there.
Well, he doesn't know if he's hiding or not. He's blind.
Yeah, to a degree.
So the they don't really need to hide because it's Campion and the kids. But Mary shows up and is holding a gun to Mother. But then all the kids defend her. It's like, no, she's a good mother. Is she there? Is she? You say so, kids. That's called Stockholm Syndrome.
I like this face-off though.
Yeah.
Between like the non-mother and the android mother.
That's another thing that comes up later, that Mary can't have kids, and I'm just like, did Ridley Scott suggest this? Are we doing this again? Is this? He seems to have this obsession with fertility, as if it's like the be-all, end-all. I know some people who desperately want children, and that they're just not physically capable of doing that, and I know that's a real issue. But the way it's worked into Ridley's stories is particularly problematic to me, especially because he equates humanity, your humanity is tied to your ability to squeeze out babies. Why? And especially when these characters are female, I think that's especially problematic.
And considering that Mother was able to bring all of these embryos up to, baby and like grown as Campion, if they had been poisoned by the nuclear carbos, that having the ability to procreate is completely meaningless. Like you can.
That's why I had a huge issue
with embryo external to the body.
Yeah, that whole thing of the original children dying from something that they should have been able to detect in the first place and would have had very obvious symptoms. I don't see what the point of that was, and I feel like you've given away quite a valuable narrative device in terms of being able to show this is what mothers' children are like, and this is what children raised in the Mithraic culture are like, and having that contrast. Because here we only have Campion, and Campion is a little bitch. You don't have any other opinions here or perspectives. And the other thing, talking about, reproduction equals humanity. So in the case of David in Prometheus, he has this desire to create life specifically. But because he's male, I think this is presented in a different way. So it's not that it's particularly sexist. I just feel that it's kind of perpetuating the status quo that a male character, if he wants to create life, it's this kind of Frankenstein thing. It's about achievement and hubris, and you get into those sorts of things of playing God. But if it's a female character, it's the most direct way of conveying that is being a literal mother. In this case, a character literally named Mother. So yeah, you don't see David trying to make himself a functioning penis that produces sperm, And I know that throughout culture, there is this association with female equals, childbirth. And it's just like, well, no, you need two ingredients there, male and female. I don't know why we only see the woman as being part of this process. So, yeah, so something that bothers me about this show.
Well, what do you think about the dodecahedron rock anus?
The what?
the dodecahedron temple,
and
it has an anus which emulates fire.
The anus, yes, yeah. I thought you said penis, so I was just like, what? Yeah. So Hunter gets his face smushed up against that, and he does not get incinerated. So the anus can make judgments here.
Why? Why is this like?
That's my question about basically everything in this show.
And like Marcus sticks a log in and it sets fire.
Yeah.
Is this like fire from the gods?
Maybe. I think that's probably the most obvious thing. But, well, here's the thing. How do you create your deity in this story? Do you want to like make it so the soul that they worship, is that going to be whoever's behind all of this, or whatever's behind all of this, that idea? Well, okay, Prometheus kind of gets in that too, where Shaw says, well, I believe in my God. God's one thing. That's like totally separate. And then over here, we've got the engineers, and they created us, but who created them? So it'll be interesting to see how they continue to explore that in further seasons of, are people going to equate every unexplainable magical thing to this soul character, or is there going to start to be this disconnect where they go, oh no, these are demons, these are monsters, whatever.
Yeah. This part here where Sue /Mary Sue is taking care of Mother's baby. Like, even though it's playing on the whole narrative of like, I can't have children, and I really dislike that. I do like Mother and Sue kind of growing together and having an understanding.
Yeah, this is perhaps one of the most natural character arcs I've seen in terms of these two characters coming to an understanding with each other. Whereas, as I was saying before, that Tempest suddenly goes from, I hate you, Mother, and I just want to die, to, we're best friends now, let's hug. Okay. And
I put it down to just teenagers.
I mean, yeah, you can do that. And then Marcus just loses his goddamn mind. So I guess it's not really a character arc so much as a descent into madness. So, yeah, I do feel like this, and maybe Paul, they've had actual growth and change, and they're coming to understandings that they didn't start off with.
I think there's a lot of times in like specifically in this episode where it's just tying up to a very neat ending, and I'm going to keep hammering this in because when we review 10, I'm just going to let it out.
Yeah.
But I liked I liked Father and Hunter escaping off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically Mother being reunited. I think it's really cool. This part I really liked is when Holly kind of comes out of her shell, because she's so used to just, you know, just following people blindly.
Yeah.
And not really making any decisions for herself. You know, Tempest shows like her ability to fight and tries to take out Otho. When Otho tries to abduct her and assumedly rape her again.
Yeah.
It's, like this whole scene like is so intense. It's in the dark, you know, everyone's rushing for like guns and stuff to try to like protect themselves. It's really cool. I feel like this was a better fight scene than we saw Mother being on the Ark, just like blowing people up by just using her voice.
Yeah.
I hope there's more of this in the next season, because it's just heavy in the kid factor being able to try to defend themselves.
Yeah. I noticed that the baby bump on Mother is really realistic because there's nowhere to hide in that latex. You know, if you're wearing a normal, fabric costume, any sort of seams or creases or anything with that prosthetic belly is hidden. But yeah, under this, I think they probably had to actually make a silicone bump and like really blend that in. I have no idea how they did it.
I really love Otho's head being squished to a pulp. That felt good. I'm really glad Tempest finally got her revenge.
Sorry, I got distracted by it's about 27 minutes in, then Mother has that dream. What the hell was that?
Oh, can we hold on a sec? I'm just going to. Is it 20 minutes in?
27. And she's staring at the metal cards, and she starts seeing the cards change. She's like scanning it, I guess. So it was like a QR code. I don't know who put those cards there. I cannot say, but she has this dream vision, whatever.
And she's cycling through really interesting looking cards. I want to make these, by the way.
They're gorgeous, actually. I'd love to. Always wanted a tarot card set. I used to have a Card Captors one when I was a kid. And yeah, I think these would be pretty neat.
I think it's interesting that she picks up the card where it looks like it's her family.
Yeah. So one is like this astrological looking star thing, and then the other one's just a group of people, symbols of people. And so she wanders through this fantasy where it's a forest or the rocky outcrop sort of thing, and it's snowing, and there's all these people in hoods just standing there, and she walks through that crowd, and in the center is this hexagonal prism, and there's a head poking out, and it looks like a kind of space jockey gas mask, and it's leaking all this fluid, and it's rotating around like a puppet head. It's all very upsetting and weird, and then she wakes up.
It's, again with the space jockey head.
Yes, and we'll see another one of those in episode 10. I don't think it looks the same, though.
It is. I've had a really good look at the two.
Oh, okay. I thought there was something different. I mean, maybe it's just because, it's like vomiting up all the...
I would have, this is why I want to say that this would have been the episode to end on. Because there is a lot of, there's a bit of, a sense of wonder. Like, what the heck is happening?
True, actually. There is so much more restraint in this episode. And I guess that's what I was trying to say before, and I couldn't really get it out. Was just you either go for the big what the fuck moment, or you show some restraint. And I think there is kind of a beauty in that. It actually makes this show seem more sophisticated. And yeah, I actually got to say, this is one of the stronger episodes, episode 9.
It's really strange, that part where Paul finds, hears a voice and then burns the cards because they are what they say pagans, paganistic cards. So is there like two warring factions of beliefs? Like they're both. No, there's like two warring factions of belief, and then the atheists. So there's actually 3 parties up against each other.
I feel like, with all this burning, it's just like, the voices tell me to burn things.
It's interesting, Paul saying that this baby is going to change everything. Yes, it will.
It sure will.
Yeah, I would have been quite happy it ending on Marcus being forced to swallow Mother's eyes. And that made me wonder as well, like, can Mother now see the insides of Marcus?
Yep, that do be how that works.
Yeah, they could have totally ended the series on this, and I would have been disappointed, but I would have been happier than having watched 10 and feeling disappointed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Marcus slashes someone's throat. Who was that? I don't think it was too significant. I don't know. I'm just skipping through the episode here. Sorry. Where is it? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. About half an hour in, he just walks up to one of the guards, that random soldier dudes at random, and just does that. I don't know. And it's a sacrifice, I guess, but
He was
no one has a
trying
problem.
to shut him up from, like, stop him from the mutiny that was going to happen.
Right.
Marcus is crazy. He's leading us to hell. Which is very apt wording.
Okay. That's one way to be a leader of a group, I guess.
And now to episode 10. Oh my god.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say. Did I get... Oh, actually, did Marcus get the suicide pill or something? He starts foaming at the mouth at the end of this episode, I think.
He swallowed Mother's eyes.
Right. Because why was he foaming at the mouth? Like, what?
He's having an epileptic fit in a way.
I guess so.
That's what I gathered as the foaming.
Yeah, I never even got it that it was the eyes in that. It's just, I don't know, the way it was shot. These aren't the things I analyze. I analyze philosophy and the underlying things, and yeah, whatever. I'm a professional. Shut up.
I like Marcus, opening on Marcus again. First, in the other episode, we opened on Marcus cutting his face open. I think in mass.
Yes. Oh, I gotta say, episode 10, called The Beginning. Paul displays troubling behavior that leads to a revelation. Sue confides in Mother while Father battles human-like emotions. Okay. As Campion questions his place in his new family, Mother and Father uncover a secret about the native creatures and what's inside Mother.
So
we can finally say it. We can finally get there.
This episode is directed by Luke Scott and written by Aaron Gazinski, who is the showrunner. Why?
So, I don't know if I have anything to say about everything that leads up to the
Ridley Scott had nothing to do with this.
Well, at least there's that. Okay, so we open with Marcus walking through the desert and he's tripping balls for some reason. Like, he looks real fucked up. I don't know.
He's gone all veiny. It's like those eyes tried to connect to his body.
Ugh, that's interesting, maybe. I didn't think of that.
An inside eye. Interesting.
Yeah. Don't know why he made him swallow that eye, but oh well. And then the rest of the group, of the kids and Mary Sue and all that. So they're looking for a place for this child to be born, and it's given me again the story of Mary, giving me those vibes of we have to get to Bethlehem. It's got to be they got to find a manger, I guess.
And it's interesting that like the spot where this baby is supposed to be born is actually looks quite dangerous because all of those creatures
Yeah, why did they decide on this
are
place?
overrunning the place. And the lander scares the creatures off, but still, it doesn't seem like a safe place for a baby to be born.
Yeah, not really.
Maybe if the baby needed a food source, it makes sense.
Why did they choose this place? I wasn't clear on that either.
Mother knew, apparently.
Oh, it was just again, word of God.
I have a feeling. I feel stronger here. That's what she said.
That's right. Yeah. It's why it's hard to follow this freaking plot, because there are things happening where it's just like, oh yeah, I was told we had to. Oh, okay. There's no logistical reasons. Okay.
The lander having the lights on the back, it looks very Blade Runner 2049.
I had the exact same note. It is giving me those vibes, especially because it's in this very foggy environment. And then
And Luke did direct some of the shorts for Blade Runner as well. So
yeah. And then they hide out in a cave, and
from this flashback of Mother's, that's where the ritual happened.
I'm just noticing, sorry, that Mary Sue, what is she? She's injecting something into Mother or making extraction. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if human medicine would help.
Yeah, so she actually makes an extraction, and it looks like white stuff comes out. I'm not clear, but yeah, she runs the test.
I know she was like trying to test when the baby was due, but I don't think you can do that with human blood. Like that's not the way you do it.
That's weird. Anyway, I'm not going to question it. I'll let you do you, raised by wolves.
So we see them wandering through this grey, dark forest and then to another set of caves, making good use of caves in this series, I guess. And Campion's exhibiting like jealous behavior because he's a kid, and you see this bonding between Mother and Sue, like more so.
And she also, I think, I don't know if I mentioned that in the last episode, but she actually donates blood to Mother. So yeah, she seems to genuinely care.
Yeah. And then like for some reason Holly and Hunter come up with the idea that the baby was put there by Sol, and then that's why Sol has been helping them. Like everyone's trying to make these interpretations of the hand of God and things that are happening. I really feel like they're just being like screwed around with, like the Greeks, with the Greek gods, like exactly what you said.
Yeah, it's very much like a Greek play, and all the myths as well. And so my theory was that and we almost talked about it ages ago, and we realized, oh no, we cannot get into this just yet. But the theory of how did Mother get pregnant, and my interpretation was that Campion Sturgis had actually already programmed this process into her, whether she already had that fetus inside or what, and then she got into that simulation and she was doing the sex with Campion, and that triggered this whole process. Or, well, because how it turns out, obviously someone intervened. Now, was the process ever supposed to happen? Was this all made up by this unknown third party? I don't know. It's all mysterious, and I guess that's how they designed it.
And because of the way that the the necromancers are made, and because they're made with technology that humans aren't really familiar with. Like, we don't know whether these necromancers always had that ability, but they were never activated or used that way.
Yeah, maybe.
One of the interesting things is more cave paintings, because, you know, that's the sort of thing that Ridley likes. I don't know whether Aaron Gazinski is kind of playing into the whole like ancient religion, but I'm gonna share the screen while it pans over this section of the clip.
Yeah, it's very much Prometheus, just the way it's lit, the way it's filmed.
Yeah, I like the gold, like painting over it all. You've kind of like got this Aboriginal sort of feeling with like the painting as well, with like the red paint.
Yeah, that's what
Even the way that they paint like the star people or the people sitting in the shuttle. You've got the image of like the solar system and stuff. Now, there is a lot of different interpretations within Raised by Wolves groups as to what this image could be depicting. Is it depicting mother and father arriving at Kepler, or is it depicting people seeding Earth? And we've got this other, you know, an intelligent race seeding humanity. Again, like the engineers.
Yeah, so there's an image of a ship, and it's two figures with halos behind the head, sort of, and then there's what we could interpret as fertilized eggs, perhaps. And let's see, there's 7, 8, 9. So I think that's the number of kids they had initially when mother and father showed up on the planet. And then there is the snake, which appears to move to pull. And, well, yeah, you can obviously see where that's going. The freaking snake. Snakes make me angry now.
Yeah. Well, it's really trippy, the snake moving, because that's something that Marcus was experiencing when he was looking up to the skull Aureri, which is the stars, because it was moving around. It makes me wonder, like, is
Everyone's tripping balls on this planet. I think everything's irradiated.
Is it something that they're eating? Is it something in the water, in the non-existent water that we don't see?
Well, they have spoken about how, you know, like the witch trials and all that hysteria was perhaps brought on by, was it ergot poisoning or something? You know, something in their bread or something in their water made these towns just go temporarily paranoid, insane, and they believed that there were witches and all of that. So it really could be that. You know, everyone thinks they're seeing things and hearing the voice of God. Nah, it's just the water.
Before we go further, a lot of everything that's happening in this series reminds me of Planet of the Vampires, which was served as inspiration for Alien, as people may know, since we're talking about this from like a Prometheus covenant point of view. So the story for Planet of the Vampires, it follows the horrific experiences of crew members of 2 giant spaceships that have crash landed on a forbidding, unexplored planet. The disembodied inhabitants of the world possess the bodies of the crew who died during the crash and use the animated corpses to stalk and kill the remaining survivors. So it's very similar to like kind of what's happening with Ghost Tally and things like that. You know, having, but the only thing that's missing is a distress signal. There's no distress signal. They just find a planet that's viable.
Yeah.
But having like 2 ships, like having the initial ship which the androids land on and crash, and then the Mithraic ship, it's interesting. And it seems like there's this sort of like mental mind games, whatever this planet is doing, because it's got this history. And we see it play out in episode 10 in the most unexpected sort of way.
Yes. To say the least.
To put it lightly.
Yeah, so mother has this conversation with father where she says, "Oh yeah, Campion Senior told me that all the Generation One kids would just practice for this baby," and it's just, wow, that's brutal. But as a firstborn child, I know what it's like. I'm the testing ground. I was the experiment. And then by the time you get to the third kid, you're like, oh, they're setting fire to the carpet. That'll be fine. That'll be fine. Just let them do it.
It's interesting. The interviews that I saw with the actors who are playing mother and father, they get to play these feelings for the first time. So like jealousy and lust and all of these sorts of things from an android perspective, which I thought was interesting, because you don't usually get to do that in any other particular role, because those sorts of emotions are something that goes hand in hand with being human, but these
Well, most humans
are far from human.
Yeah, I don't know. They say that, but you're just playing a normal human. Don't pretend like you've done anything revolutionary yet. Whereas I think, yeah, all the performances that we've gotten in the past, Ash, Bishop, David, Walter, you do get this sense of them being this other. There's an otherness to them. There's a longing. They're wanting to understand themselves and their place in this world. And I don't get that from mother or father. It's just, I'm jealous. I'm petty. There's no, again, character arcs are very important, people. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but David Cage hasn't written the worst androids of all time. So Detroit Become Human, Quantic Dreams game from a couple of years ago. Yeah, actually pretty good androids by comparison.
It really surprised me that father left. I thought it would be like far beyond his programming to want to do that, to abandon the children.
I don't know. I think they've messed around with his programming enough that like anything's possible now.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, what's with Marcus thinking he saw Hunter and Hunter's got snake hand?
Yeah, he looks like. Isn't there like a GI Joe character who has like a snake arm or some shit? I swear to God, there was. Serpentor, is that who I'm thinking of? Anyway, but it's the silliest thing, and he's just like, "Yeah, hey man, what's up? Oh, this is my snake hand. Oh, I got bitten by my snake hand." It's kind of goofy.
It's weird.
Yep.
He's
And
back.
where's
Definitely lost it.
I'm trying to find the part where they find that skull. I think it's mother and father find a Neanderthal-looking skull. Where is that?
Oh, mother finds it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she goes into the cave, she's about to. Oh no, she doesn't go into the cave. She's standing on the edge of the pit.
Yeah.
And it looks like someone was about to go 300 on her and kick her in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's this corpse that looks kind of engineering, and then there's a Neanderthal skull, extinct human variant.
Yeah, why did father decide to like nom on the skull?
So how did it get here? Well, okay, so they're talking about how there's... Yeah, what is he trying to do?
Yeah, he reaches in to the eye socket.
Oh, yeah, so he's like...
nom, nom, nom.
Yeah, it's local. Oh yeah, okay. So he's doing what Connor in Detroit Become Human does, where so Connor will like lick blood, and he goes, "Okay, I can detect what this is all about." So he's doing an analysis, and he said that the father eats the bone, and he's like, "Yeah, this is not from Earth," because I don't know. We can carbon date things, but can you carbon geolocate things? I don't know. But so there's this other dead body here that kind of engineering looking guy. And
they're not evolving, they're devolving.
I screamed at that.
That's not how evolution works.
You can't fucking devolve. What are you talking about? Yeah, I just lost my goddamn mind. But
let's put our Raised by Wolves cap on for a second and say that this thing is possible.
Hang on. Yeah, okay, now I'm in my Raised by Wolves frame of mind.
It's interesting. Who got to the planet first where this could happen? What period of time does this happen over? And does this have anything to do with the pagans? Were they another spacefaring race?
I really do think this is just basically Prometheus. These are engineers. They're seeding life on other planets, so that's why there's a Neanderthal here. And what was the other detail that they had? Well, the other alternative thing is spoilers for the ending of Battlestar Galactica, but you should have watched it by now because I think it's about 15 years old. That they actually in Battlestar they're trying to get to Earth, and they get to Earth. There's already like pre-humanoid sort of ape creatures there, so turns out humans came from somewhere else originally. So it could be some of that sort of nonsense as well.
Well, to be fair, with the cave paintings and what we saw, and this happening now, it is playing into like the whole cycle of life, that Nietzschean concept of like life is a never-ending cycle of pain, death, and rebirth.
There is that, but also 28 minutes into the final episode of this season, Father finally says, "This planet has a history. You didn't think to look into that before. You're raising children on this planet that already has a farm and has some spooky golems around, and now he's suddenly like, oh, maybe there's things living here, and it could be dangerous." Fucking idiot. I'm so mad.
They are possibly the shittiest robots ever sent to colonize a planet. And
just the shittiest robots in general. They are worse than Wheelie in Transformers the movie. That little one who rhymes everything. Yeah, I would take Wheelie over Mother any day. Hell, I would take freaking Skids and Mudflap, the racist caricatures from Transformers 2 or 3.
And I like the fact in this part when they're burying this like waterlogged engineer, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah. He just has really bad morning face, it's very puffy.
Given what the people have been eating on the planet, they're like, oh, they're eating humans. We better not tell them about it. Because like I called it earlier on in the season. I was like, it tastes like pork. And I'm like,
Long pork.
Yeah, long pig. It's disturbing. It's like they've gone for like this whole like cannibalistic sort of, trying to survive on this planet. Like, where did these humans come from, or where did these beings come from? And that's what it's going to take me into the next season, because honestly, everything else I could leave. I'm sorry, I didn't quite like the performances of Mother and Father. Like, I like Father for his like terrible jokes.
Yeah.
I like.
Unless we have more of the other androids, yeah.
Yeah, the other androids. I like the arc of some of the children: Tempest, Holly, Hunter. Initially I was really enjoying Paul and Campion's arc, but now I feel it's too predictable.
Yeah. But yeah, this whole idea of there was a colony here, and they started mutating, and they turned on each other. Like, that's cool. And I've actually I keep creating more stories and not finishing the novels. They're getting that like these novel length stories that already started. So yeah, one of them is kind of exploring getting into that trope of zombies or mutants or whatever. And so I've been doing a lot of research into that and going, well, how many different directions can you go in? Because it seems like it's kind of finite. You have your so you have your typical zombies, you have your zombies from The Last of Us, where it's this fungal thing that takes over, well, a parasitic thing. The invasion of the body snatchers is another kind of parasite. It's more evolved and it's a civilization. You have some sort of chemical poisoning, like in Serenity, the movie for Firefly, where this whole planet, they put this stuff in the water to make people more docile, but it had this effect of most people became so docile that they just sat there until they died. And then this small minority became reavers, and they became these monstrous mutated creatures. And yeah, I think that's basically every single direction you can possibly take that trope in. So it has to be one of them.
One of the things that annoys me about the snow now is that I could tell it's a bubble machine.
Yeah, a friend of mine was watching saying, it's so annoying. I wish all this particulate crap would stop falling down on the screen. Like, I wasn't even bothered, but I wasn't thinking about it. I think the weight is wrong for snow. It is a little bit styrofoamy. But
it makes sense because apparently, because of like the Goldilocks zone where Kepler is, there are extremes of like cold and hot, and it would technically snow at night. So I do like the sciencey part in trying to depict the planet in an accurate way.
yeah, and hey, maybe snow isn't the same on every single planet, so I'm okay with that.
The bubbly snow.
Yeah, but Paul now knows that his parents were killed by the people pretending to be his parents, and he's holding Mary Sue at gunpoint.
This actually hurt me a lot, seeing her hurt like this by him.
Yeah.
She cares about him so much, and she was definitely a really great mother.
That was actually one of the more compelling subplots in this story, where it's a real moral dilemma where you go, they didn't know these people had a child, but I think they did the right thing as best as anyone could, given the situation. They raised him, they gave him a very normal, safe, loving environment, and she genuinely considers herself his mother. And yeah, well, yeah, how do you get past the fact that, but you did still kill this kid's parents, it's, there is no clear answer to that. And I think that makes for very compelling drama. And it's perhaps the only plot point that actually had me invested and had me thinking about it outside of when I was watching the show.
I'm just going to share the screen now because Mother has just discovered the dodecahedron chamber.
The IRL one, yes.
Yeah. Obviously, like, this is the part where this ritual used to be carried out.
Oh, why this helmet looked different to me is because it's more calcified, which does make it look more like a space jockey.
Yeah. I like the stuff that they keep covering everything with, which is actually snake skin.
Oh, I wondered what that was.
Yeah, like the engineer-looking thing covered his face with it. Now they've put it over everything else to cover it up, and like everyone here is like, oh, it's a space jockey helmet. It's not.
Yeah, but they clearly were going for that, right?
It's similar.
So it could be that, much like the xenomorph, which starts off as a little worm babby, that, well, the newborn might become something that resembles whatever wore this helmet. I don't know. I mean, it looks kind of like a human, I guess.
It looks like a necromancer. It's that 3D printed skull. Again.
Very unusual, that texture, and like it could be a reptile person. I don't know. And it's got this really pitted flesh. Yeah, human skin doesn't behave like that. I don't know what it is.
Now, this part here, which we'll keep showing, everyone like was expecting a chest burster scene.
Ugh. So I guess this answers the question: do she have a vagine? Because it did not come out of between her legs.
No, she kind of chucked a bit of a hallet here.
Yep.
With the mouth burster.
And I don't like, she can feel pain. I don't understand that. And I also, well, I'm also very phobic about belly, so
Well,
that's also freaking me the hell out. And then she's just
Campy
vomiting up
let
all.
her feel pain, remember, when he modified her?
Oh, right, he did. He added that. Okay, okay, I'm willing to accept that. I'm like, man, how much? You just have to basically rebuild the whole thing from scratch. You'd have to add like a nervous system, and let's not get into it. Anyway, well, there's a big old snake coming out of her mouth. She's doing a reverse Milburn. And it's a big, thick one. Oh, look at the girth on that.
And it can fly.
And it can fucking fly. It's a big old lamprey coming out of this lady's mouth. And it's just, I just don't know. I lost my goddamn mind when I saw this. I'm just going, of course this is where you're taking it. You 10 goddamn hours of my life for a flying lamprey. A robot lamprey.
And the funny thing is, when they interviewed Aaron Gazinski, they said that this was always going to happen. Like, this is how the series was going to end.
So he pitched this, and people didn't laugh him out of the freaking room. What? Well, okay, this is an industry where Alex Kurtzman keeps getting work, so I guess I'm not surprised. But yeah, the lamprey's like, "Hi, mom, and I'm gonna suck on your blood now." It's just
The horror on Mother's face, though. Like, this is probably the best acting part.
like, honestly, yeah, I will give her credit here, where she's like, "Oh God, but I wanted a baby. Well, I guess this is my baby." And her hand comes up, and she's shaking, and she strokes its head. And
I like how she's like walking through the forest. She's wrapped it with the snake skin. And she's like, this is my life now.
Yep. And so that's where I had this idea of, I do think Campion may have had this idea for Mother being the, creating the future of humanity and blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a third party that got involved and has put a different baby in there. And, well, I mean, there are a lot of mythical references here. So that could be like the, what are they called? Where there's this belief that babies can be swapped out with a fake baby that's actually a monster. Oh, God, I don't remember what they're called. Have you heard of that?
I don't think so. I've
Really?
seen it in nature where eggs are pushed out of the nest.
No, so there was this, that's particularly a medieval belief of these creatures, I think like fairies or whatever, sneaking in and stealing a new baby and putting a false one in the crib. And they do believe that they're very horrific stories, because these babies would be horribly abused. The idea of, you put it in boiling water to prove that it's a real baby or not. It's like, and now it's dead. So what is that? And
like the witch trials.
Changelings. They're called bloody changelings. So should know that watching DS9. So different kind of changeling there. But so changeling babies, they believe, might have just been autistic. So that explains why your baby seems one way, and then they reach about 3 years old, and I don't recognize this baby at all. They're totally different. Some people even believe that their spouses or other adults were changelings, and again, horrific stories of torture, burning, all that. Ugh. So yeah, part of me thinks that maybe they're kind of going for a changeling subplot here, that there was supposed to be a baby, but now there's this changeling, and there's also kind of a satanic connection there. So I don't know, maybe that's what they're trying to convey. As it is, what the fuck?
I do like the fact that the mother and father finally make up and agree on something.
To destroy themselves.
I didn't like them fighting.
Yeah, so they agreed to mutual suicide. They get into the shuttle and they just plummet on down to Earth, in the Earth core, the planet's core, and
The whistle chip.
It's just like, just kill the snake baby. It's like, get an axe, just there you go, done.
I don't know why Mother couldn't have just held onto it and just plummeted into the pit.
Yeah, or she can just jump in herself. I don't get why you destroying the one good shuttle you got, and then the two of them kill themselves together when they could still be of use. I guess they just don't care about the other humans anymore. I don't know.
Maybe they have a sense of responsibility to protect the others. You know, 3 laws of robotics and all that.
I just don't get the logic there. That well, I understand Mother's arc here where she goes, oh, well, Campion told me that the original children were just a test. So I think she has totally just forgotten about all the kids. She doesn't give a shit anymore. But Father, I don't get his rationing other than, well, uh, I want to make you happy, Mother. It will make me happy, and let's die together. Okay.
Like, I feel like this is them trying to right a wrong. Killing this snake thing.
But it's so illogical. It's so dramatic and over the top of let's get in the ship together. It's like, get an axe.
It is.
Dumb.
This scene here where the ship is plummeting into the lava is very much like egg and sperm.
Could be, yeah.
So,
I think this ending highlights especially why it's a problem when you're trying to mash genres together, but without sort of, I don't know, self-awareness or restraint or kind of being able to figure out that balance. I don't know what it is exactly, but what we're seeing here is actions that make perfect sense for a fairy tale. I think if they had made this pure fantasy and told it in a fairy tale kind of way, where it's not so much about logic, it's more about rhyme and balance and rhythm and all that, pattern, I should say. And yeah, that would have worked really well. But as it is, you're trying to make this story, well, so if you approach it from a science fiction perspective, I'm trying to say that it doesn't make sense. If you approach it from a fantasy fairy tale perspective, perfect. It has all those mythic qualities. I think it's just that science fiction is inherently opposed to this kind of storytelling because it is very logic based. Or should be.
This is kind of the last view we have of Marcus being led by his hallucinations.
I wanted to say about the lava that they're plummeting towards. Is it like the holographic lava in Spy Kids? Because that's all I was thinking of, where they're like falling and falling. Like, man, this is taking forever. No, they're not actually falling down at all.
It makes me wonder because of what happens to the ship afterwards. But having the atheists arrive on the planet introduces, like, you know, another interesting development in the plot for the next season.
Yeah, so there are other humans, and that's what I was wondering from the early episode. Well, actually from episode 1, I'm going, you've just killed off all of humanity, I guess? What? How is this going to work for multiple seasons when people are dropping like flies? Well, here's your explanation.
Yeah. It'll be interesting how Sol will interact with the atheists, if at all, because, like, there is the belief that, you know, Sol only interacts with those who are worthy.
Yeah, always the way.
Yeah, but obviously, like, to us now, Marcus isn't worthy. He's not being spoken to by Sol at all. But who knows? Maybe we'll see some sort of, like, interaction between these deities, I guess, and
yes.
the non-believers. Yeah. Then we have the ship plunge through the other side of the planet.
Yeah, they go all the way through to the other side. There's no gravity on this planet. It's just a hollow Earth kind of situation. It's not hot. It's not intense gravity. Nah, nothing. It makes no freaking sense.
And the lamprey somehow flies the ship.
Oh yeah, there's that too. It's the dumbest fucking shit. What are you doing? And yeah, so they get out, and the snake has brought them to Eden, which is quite ironic, I suppose. And this is Why they didn't land here in the first place is beyond me, because there's vegetation, it looks kind of, moist, there's probably water.
Yeah.
Ah.
The kids are going to grow up heaps between now and filming next season, because I think next season doesn't take place till September again.
Unless they've already filmed it.
They start filming next year, apparently.
Huh.
But yeah, like Campion having experienced loss of his family, I think he needed this to be able to mature. All of the children are looking to him for leadership. Even Mary, which is peculiar. But I guess like it makes sense. He's the most experienced one on the planet, even though the rocky outcrop where they're located now is probably not a place he's particularly familiar with. And then the lander kind of like bursting like an egg. I don't know how I feel about that. It's just, again, why?
Symbolism, embolism. So now Snick is real big, it's giant, it's like Humongunda, and flies off.
Here's that bad CG again. Oh, I don't like
Yeah,
that.
I've seen worse. But yeah, I know Ridley Scott loves the kitchen sink approach to symbolism, so I wonder if it is supposed to be a Humongunda world-devouring snake kind of thing. It's going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger until it can basically touch its own tail around the circumference of the planet.
Yeah, and maybe they have to like stop it from going to Earth or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe they ride inside it like a whale.
Maybe it can fly in space. I don't. It can fly, so it doesn't got wings. So yeah.
In the interview that I've seen with Aaron Brzezinski is that the snake is the terrestrial one originally that was extinct on the planet, and that it got its flying skills from mother.
So it is this hybrid of her, or it's taken traits from her. I guess I could understand that. Yeah.
It makes me wonder because like we saw that helmet, and saw this thing kind of throwing up the white fluid. Was it are these necromancers, was their purpose to birth these things?
Yeah, I think that my biggest problem is just the design. Like, it is just a lamprey. It looks like an earth lamprey. Whereas you could have done something that was snake-like. Obviously, they're trying to do the satanic reference.
I think they were trying to kind of homage Dune in a way.
I really do think here's the Garden of Eden, mother and father Adam and Eve, and here's the snake, and I guess the snake might also turn out to be a shapeshifter and will try to tempt people and add a...
It was the devil. It was Satan.
As I said in the previous episodes, if you're not sure why anything's happening, Satan.
And that's it of our coverage of Raised by Wolves. Like,
Stop.
I went from really loving this series to kind of questioning.
I question everything. Who am I? What am I? Where am I?
Like, I'd like to say that I'm a pretty big Ridley Scott fan, and to a degree, I forgive a lot of his choices. But this show jumped the shark for me when they had the sex scene and then the birthing of the snake. I've seen a lot of people say that they weren't going to come back for the second season, but I'm going to see how I go.
I'm going to read the wiki synopses when it comes out. But yeah, I feel like, again, big Ridley Scott fan. I've spent the last 3 years of my life analyzing Prometheus in depth, almost done. And I love what he's doing with Alien, and I think there's a lot of merit there. But this, I know this isn't exclusively his creation, so I think maybe therein lies the problem, is you've got a few different voices here. It doesn't feel coherent. I don't think we have compelling characters. That's the thing. If you've got this weird nonsense plot, but you've got charismatic characters, that's, again, Lost is the show I compare this most to. Except Lost had a great cast, very charismatic, very diverse cast of characters there. And it's no surprise that a few of the actors have continued on into other things. It's my rabbit, don't mind me. And yeah, I think a lot of people continued on with Lost for a long time just because those characters felt properly fleshed out and they had interesting backstories. Race Bubbles just doesn't give you anything. It feels very empty. For all the set decoration and all the flashbacks and stuff, you think like it's going somewhere. I don't think it is. I don't think it knows what it's doing. Yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in it.
Yeah, the callbacks to Alien and other sci-fi series, they kind of feel good, but at the same time they're very gratuitous. And they're kind of playing into that nostalgia. And because of that, it doesn't feel like this show has its own substance. And whatever it does of its own, it has to offer, such as the snakes.
Yeah.
It feels really slapstick. Like the only thing that kind of like was intriguing was this the hooded character. We didn't know what was Tally, or we didn't know who it could be, whether it could be another human, but then we find out it's this engineer looking character. But then there's no information, and obviously that's something that they may cover in the next season. And then we've got the introduction of the atheist, which I think is a really good, like, bringing that in, because there's this like war between the two. It's no longer just between the androids and the humans. It'll be humans against humans again.
I really do think the biggest issue is that this isn't fantasy. I think if this was pure fantasy, it would have really helped this story make sense and to feel more consistent, and you could sort of excuse some of the weirder aspects. Whereas no, this is, it doesn't know what it wants to be. I think that's the big problem. Or it feels like someone came along and went, make it more like this so that it's more marketable. I don't really know what happened exactly, but I just feel like there's too many voices. There's not one, it doesn't feel focused. You look at something like Stranger Things, and I feel like that show has a singular vision. It has got a beginning, middle, and end. It's got a story that it wants to tell. It's got a mystery, but you know where it's going. Westworld, even though I stopped after season 2, I do think at least that first season, the way it treats mysteries, the way it draws you in, that's a really great example of science fiction mystery. And I could go on for days about why Race Bubbles just isn't that. God. It's been a wild ride, honestly.
Yeah, like I feel a bit disappointed. I was looking forward to something, and like the things that have annoyed me, as people who are very insistent on the alien universe being connected to Raised by Wolves.
I think Ridley Scott's come out and said they're not connected.
Yeah, Ridley Scott has said they're not connected. Dane Hallett, who worked on Alien Covenant, also said that it's not connected, and he had the best way of describing it. It's like when you listen to a band that you like, they're a very similar sort of flavor and style that they have with their music, and it's the same with any Ridley Scott production. You're going to have very similar notes being hit, very similar plot points, stories, and ideas that are going to be carried over into the film, and that's what we like about it. As far as it goes as a Ridley Scott creation or a co-creation, it's okay, but I think it's because it leans too much on Alien, and I thought I would like that aspect. It puts me off a little bit.
It's funny how Ridley in interviews kept going about this is so original, and if there's any homages to Alien, it's just a little bit of like seasonings, a little bit of flavoring. It's nothing more than that, and I just feel like no, this literally has nothing of its own to provide. It is unique in the sense that it's just done some baffling things. The whole religious central problem, conflict, and it is both original and unoriginal, I guess, in the sense that it's made some very weird choices, but they don't exactly work.
Yeah. Are we haters? I don't know. That haters is a strong word.
Hmm.
I feel like I've been misled.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we're disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed because
Yeah. And
yeah,
I'm just still questioning like everything.
I was curious about it at first, and I thought, this has potential to go somewhere, and I mean, it's definitely worth discussing. We have discussed it quite a bit, and I think there's still more to be discussed and to do a deep dive into all the weirdness of it. But as an experiment, yeah, I'm glad I went through it and just to see how they went about this, and it is just so bizarre. It is, yeah, again, utterly predictable and yet unlike anything you've ever seen before. I guess kind of like fan fiction. Yeah, that's what it is. It's alien fan fiction because it's everything you've seen before, but it's remixed and not done in a good way. It's worse, in fact. Anyone who hates on the Alien prequels, no, 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 no. No, no, no. It can get worse. It can get so much worse.
On that topic, I will be starting a new series with Connor after some preparation and maybe a bit of a break
Yes.
between Raised by Wolves and all of the podcasts which Connor is doing.
Yeah.
But for those people who don't know and who are new to Studio Yutani, me and quite a few Patreon backers and Facebook fundraiser backers have paid to have the Prometheus novelization, which was only released in Japanese, translated into English.
Yes.
Now it's in a very, very, very rough sort of like translation draft, and it's currently going through an editor, and we've got other people like selecting fonts, and we're going to be selecting imagery. We're going to be producing a small printed book for those people who are interested in it, and we're not going to be making any money off that. You'll be just paying the cost of it, the production. But the idea is that we're going to review the book and how it differs from the film and from the script. And since Connor is the foremost professional on everything Prometheus and everything, prequel related, I think it would really be interesting because you're finishing Prometheus by minute, or have finished it by now, haven't you?
Yeah, so I got 3 more episodes to go. I think I didn't do one this week because I got too busy, but yeah. So it should be done next month or so.
Yeah, and we'll kind of like give ourselves a bit of a break and kind of prepare our episodes ahead, but we'll be going chapter by chapter as to how the book opens up, the difference between the two. But if you're interested in having a look at the translation, the prologue is actually available on Studio Yutani now without having to be a Patreon supporter. Everyone who's part of the backing project has been sworn to secrecy because we were seeking to publish it. But now that Disney own the Alien IP and Prometheus is in a way owned by Ridley's production house, RSA, it's really hard to get anything like this published officially. So this will all be unofficial. This will all be fan-sponsored, fan-made. So anyone who comes into the project is sworn to secrecy, but the only discussion that will exist outside would be this podcast. And you are absolutely invited to come along and do this with us. You can submit voice reviews and ideas about why these developments in each of the chapters ring out to you, why they play out better than the film, or in some cases don't, and the changes of the characters as well, because I think this book is actually closer to the original script in some ways. So
Interesting.
it'll be an interesting ride. And the development between Shaw and David's relationship is also quite different as well. Because Shaw kind of treats him like shit instead of being totally smitten by him in the film. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be an interesting discussion. So tune in for that. Thank you for joining us for our Raised by Wolves analysis. Sorry if you're a really big fan of the show. We tried to be very, very neutral in the way that we've discussed the show, and I was a really big fan at the beginning, and at the end of it now I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I gave credit where credit was due for certain things, but I think there's no sense in pretending something is good when it's not. And that's the whole point of critical analysis. And some people just, I do know people who can't handle any sort of criticism or making fun of the things they love. And if you're one of those people, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But I definitely enjoy tearing the things I love to shreds. That's why I did Prometheus by Minute, where I go, I love this movie, but I know it has problems, and I'm not afraid to confront those problems. So yeah, I think it's valid. But I guess I should. Well, do I have to do plugs on the show? I guess you can go to my website in the footnote, the citations for this.
Yeah, I've included a link to Travian Designs, and you can have a look at all of Connor's podcasts there. And I really, really think that you should jump onto his Patreon and support him on Prometheus by Minute. You did get the whole shebang, and he's already started on Covenant, and you've got, Tron?
Yep, Tron Legacy. And I also got RoboCop, which is 60 seconds to comply. So that one's
love that name so much.
Yeah, that one's publicly available. It's about 3 or 4 episodes up now. And I think that's everything I'm doing other than all my art stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining me, Mother, on Studio Yutani. And this is us signing off.
Peace.